Hello, friends, and welcome to the Handyman Success Podcast. Our mission is to teach and inspire by sharing the stories and insights of our guests. Whether you're a prospective, new, or seasoned handyman business owner, you will learn practical business tips you can apply today and be inspired that you can reach your goals and create a better tomorrow. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Call, owner of Handyman Marketing Pros. We equip small, family-owned handyman businesses with modern websites and SEO to help grow their businesses online. I'm joined by my co-host, Alan Lee, who has built his handyman business to a point where it runs without him. He now teaches others, step by step, how to do the same thing through his Handyman Journey business coaching. You can learn more about our marketing and coaching services by scheduling a call with us on handymansuccess.net. So whether you're patching drywall, sitting in the office, or making your third run to Home Depot, we invite you to pull up a chair and sit with us on another episode of the Handyman Success Podcast. Today, we are joined by Phil Green with Rapid Repair Pro in the St. Louis area. Phil, thanks so much for joining us today, man. If you don't mind, give us a little snapshot of your business and just a little bit about you and maybe like what your team looks like right now.
Sure. Well, hi guys. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm based out of St. Louis, Missouri. I started Rapid Repair Pro in 2019. I've been in the business most of my adult life. And in 2019, I rebranded a remodeling company into a handyman company because I saw a need for the service. Since then, I started that myself. Since then, I've grown. I've got 6 handymen out in the field, and I've got one person that handles takes my calls and schedules my jobs, things like that. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. I personally myself, I work about a half a week. I do odds and ends. Like today, I'm in my truck because I just went to the dump. And then I'm going to be done for the day. So that's I kind of in a spot now where I'm enjoying what I do. And like I said, I only work about a half a week.
Awesome. If you don't mind sharing like any kind of like historical revenue numbers, I know you've been in business for quite a few years. If even just some recent years, just to give a number snapshot to tie in with having 6 handymen in the field, an office person, you having the flexibility as the owner. And then after that, certainly would love to learn more about your transition from remodeling to handyman. But I want to get ahead of myself here.
Yeah. Yeah, so this year I'm going to end up at about 1.1 million. Last year I was about 950. Each year I've kind of grown, 10 to 20% since I started, and yeah. So at this point I'm able to keep 6 guys going, and I'm looking to hire still because I'm actually getting to the point where having to I'm more than 3 weeks, 4 weeks scheduled out. So people are getting to the point where they're calling around other places because they don't want to wait. So I'm always looking for good people.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So when you had your construction business that you kind of rebranded into this, was that just you, or did you have employees with that company as well?
That was mainly me. In 2000, well, I started that in 2007, right before the big crash. And then my youngest son graduated high school and he wanted to work for me. So he joined me, and then, that happened with the economy. For a while, it was just me. And then him and I got into the restoration business in 2015. And he bought me out in 2019 because he didn't want to work for his dad anymore. And so now he does that. And both my sons are now partners in that business, and they're doing great. So I started at that time, I decided to go back into my business and rebrand it.
Okay.
What drew you to the handyman side with having more experience in larger construction remodeling? I know you mentioned kind of identifying a need. Was there any other kind of details as far as inspiration for you to really focus bringing in on the handyman small job side when you started Rapid Repair Pro?
Yeah, so I saw the need for it, and I like the turnover of money in the handyman business. My bread and butter is really jobs that are under like 2,300 bucks. That's the ones I like. The 2 day jobs, 1 to 2 day jobs, in and out, get paid, move on to the next job. I still do some larger jobs. I usually have one or two of those going at a time, so that if a guy has a short day, if he gets in and does a 2 hour job somewhere, he has somewhere to go. So, but I like it because of the cash flow, the low risk.
Yeah, I know relationally too, it's a lot easier with the homeowner and that, you're not in their house for weeks on end. And naturally, people get tired of each other, mismatch
Sure.
expectations on the output. Um, you personally, like, what would you say? Because I know this is a conversation we have a lot as far as pros and cons of remodeling versus the handyman job. We talk with a lot of people that they want to scale down and do the smaller jobs. And you already mentioned kind of the cash flow aspects of that. But conversely, I hear quite a few people that they start doing the bigger jobs and they're more drawn to that. So if you don't mind kind of sharing your perspective on like what in your opinion like the pros and cons of the remodeling versus the small handyman projects, especially business wise.
Well, for me, at my age, I'm not really interested in doing a lot of larger remodeling jobs, mainly because I don't want to have to be so involved myself, with the hand holding that's required with the homeowners, all the time spent, estimating the jobs. I mean, I've got my guys trained to where they estimate the jobs even. I mean, I'll go look at bigger jobs if I have some, but it's just a personal choice for me that I don't want to have to be involved in all of that, anymore. And yeah, that's the main reason for me.
Yeah, love it, love it. So what would you say? You said your typical kind of gravy job is about $2,300 and a little bit less. So what's a typical like 2 day job that you guys do? Like, do you guys do a lot of like flood cuts or like what's a common job that you guys do, and what's kind of your bread and butter as far as what the work is?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a few examples. One would be a deck repair job. Somebody's got some deck boards and some railing on their deck that needs to be replaced, or the deck stained. Another example would be a job this past week where someone had a bunch of interior doors in their house, not a bunch, but maybe like 6 or 8 interior doors. They needed to be replaced, a few holes in the wall, painting a few rooms of a house, um, repairing siding, doing some exterior repairs, just a lot of different jobs like that. That
Mhm.
just could be a few items on a list that people need to get done, and honestly, they, you know, anymore it's pretty much whoever answers the phone and talks to them first is usually going to be the one that's going to get the job.
Hmm. Okay. And so as that, like you sounds like you do a kind of a wide variety of stuff. How do you, one big question that comes from a lot of people is how do you hire people to do a little bit of everything? Do you have guys that are like specifically they're your deck guys or guys that are your door guys, or does everyone do everything? And how do you find people to do that?
Yeah, so my guys are all skilled in a lot of different areas, and they're pretty much expected to be able to do uh, anything. Now I do have a guy who's a little more skilled at um, doing some electrical. We do some minor electrical work, nothing we'd have to get a permit for. But so how do I find them? I put ads on Indeed. I go through a lot of people. I have a skills survey that I made up that they rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 for all the different areas that I'm looking for. Um, and I weed them out that way. And usually, I think a lot of the reason why I get people like that interested in coming to work for me is because I look like I'm a real company, and a real company that's that you would want to work for. Um, I know a lot of guys that work for me. They work for themselves, and they don't like having to deal with the taxes. They don't know how to get leads. So they're looking for a established company that give them consistent work, and that's what I try to present myself as and be.
Yeah, I've personally had that same experience too. I think really great qualified people, they had some knack at going out at their own, but they lack the kind of business intuition, the marketing kind of hustle, if you will, to actually generate the leads, manage the business. But they are really good at doing the actual job. Um, so whenever you're hiring, Phil, like it sounds like largely use Indeed. Um, what would you say like retention, success rate as far as like are you hiring when you hire somebody, like how often does it not work out really quickly and you have to let them go? Or have you had pretty solid success, good track record with once you get somebody, they stay on board for a while, or any kind of guidance in that end? Because I know people are kind of scared at hiring and then it not working out. And I think that that's kind of part of it, but just curious your perspective on kind of hires that don't work out versus your retention and keeping the guys that you have on.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I have a good success with keeping the guys on. The guys that I have now, all but one of them have been with me for several years at least. Um, I mean, I do go through guys. I mean, I have 6 guys. I've probably gone through 20 guys for the 6 that I have. I mean, and that's why I have them fill out the skills survey. I tell them, be honest with yourself on this because I'm going to judge you by it. And if I send you out, you tell me you're a 10 at hanging doors, and you go out on, I send you on a job, you can't hang a door. I mean, that's a deal breaker.
Mm.
Uh, so, I'm pretty quick to, I keep an eye on them. If they don't work out, I mean, I don't waste any time um, letting them go. But the guys that are good at what they do and they work out well, they tend to stick around. I pay them well, take good care of them. So,
Awesome. I've got one more specific question related to that, and I'm sure Alan has some questions because he loves this topic. Um, Firstly, I love the transparency as far as the skill survey and just saying like, hey, be honest with this because I'm going to judge you by the numbers that you put here. Like saying that up front, it's simple, but it does make a difference in my opinion. It's just such a clear fact of like, hey, just be honest with this because I'm going to judge you by that example like you used with the hanging doors. What understanding that it's going to vary by market, you being in the St. Louis metro area, what kind of, if you don't mind sharing, kind of the compensation that you have for like your top talent guys? Because I know ideally a lot of people are looking for the top talent that you can trust to go out and do a wide variety of things. Like, how do you compensate and take care of them?
yeah. So first few years I was in business, I paid guys by the hour, and I paid my top guy 35, and the guys um, that were just coming in, I would start them out at 25 an hour. But this beginning of this year, I changed all that. I went to a model where I pay a flat 30% of the tickets. So I send them out, assign them to jobs, and they quote the jobs under a pretty simple guidance that I give them that, um, you know, it's either going to be a 2-hour minimum job, a half a day job, or a full day job. And I tell them how much to quote according to that. And that would include the basic materials for the job. Anything that isn't a selection that the homeowner would have to make, like a faucet or a fixture or something. And then they get paid 30% of that ticket. So it's
Hmm.
designed for a guy that is good. If he sells an 8-hour, full day job, he'll make $35 an hour if it takes him 8 hours. If it takes him 6 hours, he makes more. If it takes him 10 hours, he makes less. And what I've found is that my guys have really thrived under this. My average guy is making $42 an hour under this system. Because now they have some skin in the game. If they have to have help, one of the problems I was having before is when they needed to go pick up their materials from Home Depot or wherever, that two of them would go at the same time. They were wasting time like that. So if they have to have help on a job now, that other person gets paid $30 an hour to work on their job, and it comes out of that 30%. So they're working by themselves more, which I did this stuff for years by myself, and I always work by myself, almost always. So not that I want guys being unsafe, doing unsafe things by themselves, but this is incentive for them to make more money for themselves. And that way it keeps my margins consistent. And I don't have any problem getting guys interested. I mean, it seems to attract the guys. When I put an ad out for it, it seems to attract the guys that are kind of go-getters, that they can see that, hey, I can make more money for myself if I work a little harder, or if I'm better or faster. So it's working well.
Okay, that's awesome. And that's one question I was going to ask about kind of the structure that you have, right? And specifically, who does the estimate? Because you got six guys out in the field, you got one CSR scheduler, but it sounds like the handyman actually do the estimates. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they'll go out and quote the job and do the job the same day.
Okay,
So
awesome. And how does that work, like as far as scheduling goes? Because like I assume someone will call in and say, hey, I need some work done. I got 6 interior doors that need to be replaced. And then you schedule them at 8 o'clock that morning. Have your guys ever gone out there and not sold the job? And then what do you do with them for the rest of the day?
So it happens on rare occasions. In order for us to put one of those on the schedule for a technician to go to, the people have to pay a $79 deposit.
Okay.
That weeds out the people who are just quote shopping. And I find that since I've done that, the technician sells over 90% of those that they go to. It's rare that somebody says no. And when they do, like I said, I have a few other bigger jobs going usually that I can send them to do their job. Technician still gets the 30% of that $79. So they
Okay.
maybe spend a half an hour going there and doing that. So it seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, interesting. And so is there any other kind of like weeding out process that your CSR or the lady in the office, or maybe you do before someone gets to that point of paying $75 and getting on the schedule? Like, how does that go? How many people that actually call into, converting to an estimate? And are you involved in that process, or is it just your CSR who handles all that?
I'm not involved in that process. Typically we'll get 30 calls a week, between 20 and 30 calls a week. And he'll usually do 10 of those. So about 30% of the calls come in actually book for the technician to come out and do that. Now I do have, in addition to that, I'll get probably 6 a week that I'll have to go look at that are either more complicated. We can tell it's going to be something that's going to be, the technician's not going to be able to go there and quote it and do it the same day. So I'll go out on Wednesdays and Thursdays and I look at those. And those typically tend to be bigger projects, like week-long projects, 2-week projects. And I'll quote
And
those, and I'll sell about 50% of those myself.
okay. And the
Are those
technician
more
gets
like,
paid the same on those jobs? They still get
Yes,
30% of those jobs? Okay.
yes.
and so those are, just to clarify, those are more like the, like, more, I guess, contractor jobs, if you will, like the, like kitchen remodeling or bathrooms. Am I right in that?
Yeah, they typically tend to be, a bathroom remodel, refresh, or a deck build, or something like that.
Okay. And just to fill in the gaps here, so right now you're booking like 3 or 4 weeks out. And so when someone calls and they have, let's use the interior door hanging example, you tell them $79 dispatch fee for the estimate. Does that actually get scheduled 3 or 4 weeks out, or does a technician go to them immediately or as soon as possible to kind of get verification? Do you want to do this job 3 or 4 weeks down the road? Does that question make sense? Is the estimate being done soon, or is it actually being booked 4 weeks
Yeah,
out?
those are being booked 3 or 4 weeks out.
Okay. So when someone calls, the people are understanding, like, okay, they're going to come look at this. It's $79. It's going to be 3 weeks, but they're going to plan ahead that you're assuming that they're going to take the job because they agreed to this
Right,
$79 dispatch fee.
right.
Huh. That's really cool.
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting. It's a different model, so it's very interesting. And I think it just proves that in the handyman world, in any business really, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's not just one way to do something. So that's pretty cool. So just trying to wrap my head around it. So if you're booked 3 or 4 weeks out, Betty Sue needs, we'll just say 7 interior doors replaced, and you book her, you say, okay, it's gonna be $75. We'll come out in 4 weeks to take a look at it, but we'll plan on doing the job that day. So if the technician gets to Betty's house in 4 weeks and says, okay, the job's going to be X amount of dollars, then he goes to Home Depot, gets the materials right then, and then brings it back and gets started right now. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
what we do.
All
I've
right.
got one more, kind of fleshing this out even more, Phil, is so kind of tying in your pricing. Your pricing is kind of 3 tiers: a 2 hour minimum, half day, and then the full day. And obviously, if something's a day and a half, you add the full day with the half day. Estimate process, the deposit 3 or 4 weeks, if that's when you're booking. Kind of two-part question here is, if you don't mind, kind of, have you always done it that way? Like, what has been your journey as far as how did you used to estimate? Have you always done it this way? And pricing the jobs, understanding too, it's by the market. If you don't mind sharing, like, your actual, like, what goes into your pricing? Like, what is the 2 hour rate? What's the half day rate? What's the full day rate? Does it go by the same hourly, like back end hourly labor rate? If you don't mind overall explaining kind of your pricing and estimating journey to see like where you came from to how you landed on this process right now.
Sure. So initially, I would drive around every day of the week and go to multiple houses and look at jobs and quote them. And I was spending all my time just doing that, only to maybe sell 25% of them. So I switched to this. I kind of went a long time ago. I heard Ben Alexander on one of your podcasts talk kind of about they do some similar type of model as this. So I thought I'd give it a try. So I worked this up, and the way I set it up for the technicians is I base it on, if it's a 2 hour minimum. I mean, we charge $145 an hour, and that includes basic materials, which typically are about 12% of my revenue. So we're really figuring it's $100 an hour for labor, basically, or actually a little more, like 115. So it's a 2 hour minimum. We don't tell the customer this, but so the employee just tells them it's going to be this much for the job. If it's a 4 hour, it's 4 times 145. If it's more than 4 hours, it's a full day. So if they look at it and say, well, this job's going to take me 4.5 hours, we quote a full day, which would be 8 times, 145. includes basic materials. If it's going to be more than a day for them, I tell them you always round it up to the full day. So if it's going to be a day and a half, you're right, we're going to do a day and a half. But if it's so, we're always rounding up to the next 4-hour block.
So even if it's about 4.5, 5 hours, you'll round up to the full 8.
Yes.
Awesome. That's
Yep.
a great way to kind of combat, I mean, a huge problem people have is cash flow and, looking at the numbers and be like, what we did was not profitable. But if you're kind of just rounding up, I mean, I'm a huge advocate of keeping things simple, and that's pretty simple. And also is underscoring your priority as I need to ensure I'm profiting off of all these jobs. So I love that.
Yeah, it's working really well. It's easy for them. We also used to, my CSR would used to discuss pricing with the customers when they would call in and try to give them ballparks. And we've stopped doing that under this system. And he just tells them, it's $79 for us to come out, I'll give you a quote and do the work. And it's working really well. We actually have a higher close rate now than we used to.
And when you say close rate, you mean actually close rate when you get to the job, or $79 rather than on the call? Because I imagine people too that are calling and they're really pressing for some estimate quote. They're kind of pre-qualifying themselves. They're weeding themselves out in a way. And someone that really wants to get that like very forcefully over the phone without acknowledging the $79 and waiting, likely higher propensity for them to not be a good client anyway to even accept the job at your price, especially if you're rounding up 4.5 to 8 hour labor.
Right. And to help them out, I use Jobber, and I have, they have a way in there to where people can book jobs. I set up some common jobs in there with pricing that we just send them the link to that, and they can go on our see pricing for different types of jobs. Sometimes they call back, go ahead and book a job with us after seeing that. So at least we don't just send them off with nothing. We give them the opportunity to go there and check that out.
Okay. And those are for people that don't necessarily agree to the $79 and want to book yet, but kind of give them a little bit more information for them to then decide if they want to book the job. Am I understanding that right?
Right. Yes.
Almost like a downsell for people who are like, I don't know about the $79 in 3 weeks. And, send me that price list, if you will.
Basically, yeah, they can go in there and see how we price common jobs, decide if they want to, they're still going to pay, if they want to book, they're still going to pay the $79. There's no getting around that, but it gives them some information. They can see if they're looking for quotes, that gives them the information how, to see how much we charge for things.
So on that quote sheet, does it have your 2-hour minimum, half day and full day rate, or is it like priced out like, oh, this is how much a toilet costs?
So if you're talking customer facing, what are you talking about what I'm talking about with Jobber?
Yep.
Yeah, Jobber, it'll have I list out some common jobs. It might be painting, or there's probably like 10 different common jobs on there, and I'll put the pricing. I won't, like, for a 2-hour job or 4-hour job, I'll put the pricing in there. They can book in like 2 or 4-hour blocks. Give me just 1 second.
It's just 5 foot, and then you come back in.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
You're good, Phil. Appreciate you taking the time, man. We know you're busy and you're running late on a dump run, so it's all good.
I'm sitting at a travel center right now. But yeah, I put the pricing on there for them to, and they can book a job. But if they do book a job on there, we call them back and collect the $79 and schedule them time to do it.
Is that 79 just a minor logistical part of that? If they say it's an 8-hour job, they accept the job, is that 79 credited towards the job, or is that a whole separate transaction entirely?
Yeah, we credit it to the job if they go through it.
Awesome. So they can actually book jobs online, like without going through the CSR. Is that correct too?
They can, yeah, and some people do. And it even allows them to book, because I don't have any other way to do it on Jobber. The Jobber allows them to select a time and a date, but when they do that, we immediately call them and schedule, put them in,
Yeah,
when we can
yeah,
fit them in.
that makes sense. So with this model, because you transition to this model, this new way of charging and half, 2 hour minimum, half day, full day rate. The technicians sell their own job. What are the issues that you've experienced with that type of system, or have you experienced any issues? Like one thing that I think of is you know someone books a job, you get out there and it's just totally not what you expected. Have you guys encountered any issues like that or anything?
No, because we make it clear when they call in that, the technician is going to come out and assess the work and provide them with a quote and then do the work. So, I mean, we can't be surprised. Now, on a very rare occasions, the technician will get out there and the job's just going to be way more complicated than they're comfortable quoting for one reason or another. In that case, I might have to get involved and look at it and decide if it's something we want to do. But 99% of the time, that's not an issue.
There's like a fail safe, throw up the red flag and Phil goes out.
Yeah.
The fill flag. Yeah. So is there any so you don't really people don't call and say, hey, I need one TV mounted or one toilet replaced. Like that's really not what you guys do. What do you guys do when people call in with small stuff like that?
Well, when they do, we're upfront with them. CSR's upfront with them. We have a 2-hour minimum. And there are a few people that do that. I do teach the technicians, when we go out to do that, if they get out there and they do something that takes them 15, 20 minutes, offer to do something else for them. Just ask, is there anything else I could do for you while I'm here? Or if you see something that's obvious that you could fix real easy while you're there, just fix it. Just say, hey, while I'm here, I took care of this for you. So try to give them some value for that. But some people are just okay with that. They want somebody, they found somebody, and they don't care.
Yeah. Those are ideal clients for sure. And I love that whole extra thing. I think it was someone on our podcast that they'll actually ask specifically like, hey, do you have any like loose door handles or, A, B, and C, like really literally like a minute or two. And it's kind of just this value add, really great client experience. And it just takes a few minutes of time, especially if you got some extra time. I think that's a good process to have in there. Phil, do you have another like 5 or 10 minutes here, man? I'd love to have a few more questions.
Sure. Yeah, fire
Awesome.
away.
Yeah. So firstly is if you don't mind, kind of like from starting in 2019 to now having 6 technicians, CSR, like what has your like marketing journey been? Like as far as where you've started, what you've added to be able to have lead flow that sustains, 6 technicians. If you don't mind just fleshing out what your journey has been in marketing to ultimately kind of fuel the fire.
Yeah. So initially when I started, I had a heavy focus on real estate agents. I'd already been with the restoration business. I'd already been in that, marketing to real estate agents. So I just started going after them to do home inspection repairs. I would have them email reports to me. I would quote them, turn around the same day with a quote. And then that way they could do their negotiation. I got a lot of business initially doing that. I also got involved with BNI, and I did that for a while. So starting out, I did what I could do personally, drum up business. And then I got the website, started getting some leads that way. Of course, I got my vans all wrapped. And then, so now, with 6 technicians, I'm heavy into Google local service ads, Google guaranteed, running Google ads now. And so we get a lot of leads now organically because our website's been around for a while, and it's a good website, which you do a good job on. I get a lot of calls that way, and the rest would be from primarily through Google.
Awesome. So overall, like one thing that I'm huge into is reputation, and you've just done an exceptional job at building a reputation. Also, I want to highlight too to our listeners, like I know you've got like three pretty prominently located Google business profiles on Google Maps. Do a great job at building reviews, alongside the actual in-person relationships with realtors, and like just over the years of building a client base, having a nice rap. I'm sure you guys have like good print marketing, business cards, flyers, etc. I just want to highlight to our listeners here that Phil has built an incredibly strong reputation. And at the end of the day, reputation, I believe, is kind of what carries a business through and continues to grow without relying on one single source, one single relationship. But you've done a good job at kind of diversifying your reputation building across multiple Google profiles, and just showing up, answering the phone is a great way to just fuel jobs right away. If you're not answering your phone, start answering it. So overall, I just want to underscore like you've done a really good job of building a reputation, and I think that goes a long way. Just continuing to consistently build. Business is going to have ups and downs, but when you have a strong reputation or constantly building that, kind of flattens that curve and puts you on the upward directory when you're paying close attention to the details, pricing, profitability.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Awesome.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. So I'd love to hear, like, we've talked a lot about kind of your operation and whatnot. Is there anything else that you kind of do operationally to make your business like efficient and run a little bit kind of more smoothly?
Yeah. So one thing I do is I don't waste money on an office space. My CSR lives in St. Louis. He works out of his home. I don't need an office chair for somebody to place their butt in to do that kind of work. My office is in my home. I keep a storage unit to keep our tools in. I have a dump trailer that I keep at the storage unit. And that's what I'm doing today, dumping that. So that's my guys go to the storage unit, they dump their trash in the dump trailer, and then I take it usually once a week or two, and dump it for them. So yeah, I just try to keep my expenses low, my overhead low. Like I said, overhead wise, it's me and the CSR are the only two that are on overhead. Everybody else makes us money.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so how many trucks do you guys have, and where do your technicians keep their trucks?
So I have four trucks on the road. My other technician uses his own truck. And of course I have my truck. I let them take them home. So I don't have to have a place, to park them overnight. So yeah, that's the way I do it. It's always worked well for me that way.
One
Nice.
question, like kind of going back to the efficiency side, that's a little bit more direct to you work about half the week, and have a lot of flexibility and freedom in your business. What would you say are a couple like key things that you have implemented that you have in the business that give you that freedom and that flexibility as the owner to kind of manage the operation and just have a lot of freedom that people start their business ultimately to have that?
Sure. Well, to start off, you got to have a good system, right? And you got to be able to teach people how to do it. So I think the system I have with the technicians allows me a lot of freedom because I'm not having to go out to look at every job quoted. The systems I have set up with the CSRs to take the calls, to schedule the jobs, allows me not to have to answer the phone. and deal with that stuff. I use, Jobber, works great. Allows me to always be on top of what's going on without spending a lot of time. Allows the technicians to upload photos every day to the job so I can see the progress. Schedule's easy to use. So it's really just, setting things up, and using other people and other products to do a lot of your work for you so that you don't have to be constantly putting out fires and being involved in everything that's going on. I mean, so basically my days, first thing in the morning, I'll look at, see what's going on. The end of the day, I don't even schedule the jobs. The CSR schedules jobs. Him and I will talk at the end of the day. 2 days a week, I go out and look at the bigger jobs. Once every week or two, I'll run to the dump. Every Friday morning, I take the entire team out for breakfast. And so we can, know each other and talk about things that are going on and just build some camaraderie. So that's kind of what my weeks look like.
Cool.
That's
one
awesome.
question I was actually not going to ask. We've been talking for so long. Really appreciate your generosity and sharing, Phil. Was just like, what do you do with the team wise? I love that you do the dump runs for them because that's probably something. I mean, it's hard to pay them to do that with your model. I'm sure they appreciate that. The breakfast, that's really great. Just your actual pay model. So I love that Friday breakfast. That's a really cool team building event. Who doesn't love a good breakfast on a Friday to end the week strong?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
They all
cool.
look
And
forward to it.
yeah, that's awesome. And I didn't ask you this earlier. I'd forgotten. So are the handyman technicians, are they 1099s or W-2
They're all
employees?
W-2.
Okay, they're all
employees,
W-2.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
just have to make sure that, and I track their hours through Jobber. I just have to make sure that, the hours they work, they're getting at least minimum wage.
Right.
That if they're working overtime, that they're at least with all that would be calculated. So they're at least getting what, the law requires, which frankly, if a guy was close to making minimum wage, he wouldn't be with me very long.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. So what would you say overall in your business? Like what are some of your biggest wins and what are some of your biggest losses in kind of this handyman journey?
So my biggest wins will really be the freedom that I've been able to create for myself, and being able to, you know, I take a lot of pride in the fact that I support, 6 families through this business and plus my own. I really enjoy that. I enjoy, being involved in the guys' lives. My biggest loss was initially starting this out. I got myself too far in debt. I should have taken a little longer to do some things. And that's one of those things that once you get there, it's really can create a lot of stress in your life. But I've worked through that, and learned a lot of lessons that way. So that would be one big thing of advice I would say to anybody getting into this is try not to get into debt. Try to do it on your cash flow. That means growing slower. Just do it that way.
Yeah, great advice,
Yep.
Phil. And I'm personally, I share this all the time on calls, is I'm personally a big advocate of prioritizing profitability and growing out of profitability rather than growing out of liabilities, loans, etc. When you're profitable and can hire out of that profit without taking a hit for your own family or other team members, I just think it's the most sustainable, not stress-free. Obviously, there's inherent stress in growing a business, but financially growing out of your profitability is a great way to do it. So good advice there, and thanks for sharing that experience. And one other thing I want to highlight is your authentic joy to be a part of someone's life and to help sustain their family. I think that authentic heart and care for people is really important for any leader that's growing a business. Of course, you've got to have the upfront expectations of hey, you're a 10 on drywall, so I expect you to show up and do a good job. I'm judging you on that to do your job. But
Right.
once someone really qualifies themselves as being qualified as an employee, as a team member, from there, the leader pouring into them and training them, having breakfast with them, engaging in their life and taking pride and joy in that. I think it's just some inherent characteristics of a good leader. So anyway, Phil, I just commend you for that, man. And I hope that people listening can understand and listen when they're hiring, having that real care for people, while still having clear boundaries and expectations about the job being done, I think is an important characteristics when you're growing and to be able to actually create freedom without putting out fires all day. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox here. I thought that was really great advice. Last
Thank you.
question, Phil. We'll let you go, man. I know you're hanging out in the parking lot for us. Again, appreciate your time. What kind of, I know you already alluded to some parting advice, but any parting advice to anyone that's thinking about starting a handyman business or relatively new? A big part of our listenership is actually people that are thinking about doing this, and people that are really new that actually start because of hearing these stories and they've got the skills. So what kind of advice would you have for someone that's new or just thinking about getting started?
Yeah, I would say do it. I mean, if you feel like you can do the work, you don't have to even do the work, be able to do the work yourself. I mean, this is a business you can start by just hiring a good handyman. But spend the first few years working your butt off. Get out there and do as much as you can. Promote yourself. Work hard. I mean, I started the first year of this business. I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning every day and worked in my office until time to go get out there and do some work. So you just got to work hard, get something built up, be smart, don't get into debt. There's so many people looking for good people to do work for them, people that'll answer the phone, people that show up and be honest and do what they say they'll do. There's no shortage of work for someone willing to do that.
All right, friends, that's a wrap of this episode of the Handyman Success Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on your journey in building a thriving handyman business. We would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Whether you learned something new or you're facing challenges that you're just not quite sure how to deal with, we would absolutely love to hear from you. We would love it if you would leave us a review, drop us a comment, or hit that like button telling us that you liked this episode. By doing this, you truly help and support us in creating more of these podcast episodes to help change the handyman industry to something amazing. And I want you to remember that you are not alone on this journey. Jason and I are here to help. If you need anything at all in regards to business or marketing, you can reach out to either Jason or I at handymansuccess.net. You can go over there right now and set up a free consultation call with either of us. We would absolutely love to talk with you. So thanks again for spending this time with us. And until next time, go out and be a blessing.